We're back. We're back with a special edition, Jets 55, podcast 6. We're going to do it in a couple of days. We had to come in quick. We had to come in hard. We all know what happened. And here it is, right to the bitter end, the GOAT. I had to call him the GOAT, Tom Brady. He's going to have to smack me in the head. We're having fun on podcast 5. We want to come up with a question. We give you folks an email. Here's the question. Give us your answer. I come up with a ridiculous, silly question. What do you do? Not do you want him, but if Tom Brady is the quarterback of the Jets next year, can you live with it? We threw the question out there. We're going to have all this silliness and laughs, and it's going to be great. And what does he do? What does he do? He retires. Vinny, F you. F you. I'm retiring. Did he see Phil, did he see the question?
He knew we were coming. He read the question and he said, I'm running for the hills. I ain't having nothing to do with those Jets. Forget it,
I mean, what do we have right now? 100,000 followers, 50,000 followers. I don't know the number. It could be an obscure number. But you know what? I think he saw the podcast and he's so bitter with the Jets. He saw the question and he says, you know what? F them. I'm retiring. Done. Make them look ridiculous. I'm gonna knock down the fun, knock it out, knock it right down. I'm gonna bury it. Done, finished. Brady says goodbye right after my ridiculous question.
Do you think for 1 second that that's not true? You're 100% right. He sat there and read it. I know he did, and he said, "These guys are."
I was thinking about it.
He's like, "What?"
I was thinking about it. Right? Listen. It's been how many years? 100 years. It feels like with Aaron Rodgers after the end of every season. Yeah. Oh, I don't know. Maybe I got to see, got to feel this, got to check this.
Bob used to do, for God's sake,
Bob did it. So now is Brady's thing retiring and coming back? If I had a bet, I say he was tired. Because then if he got retiring is bigger than just saying, well, maybe I might, could be. Look for me. I got to feel how I'm doing. I got to look. But yeah, good for him.
I give him credit. He did it, Vinny, on a quick Twitter, boom, big tweet, video, done. He used social media, done. No big deal. Not standing in front of next to Belichick with his Patriots uniform, like they would all do. Typically, they come out and I'm going to retire. He even said, "I did all the emotion last year. This is quick to the point." It's like, okay, I give him credit. It's done. So he's retired.
That's why it seems like it's done. I mean, did he do it right after our podcast? Is that when he made the decision?
Yes. 100% yes. And you know what the saddest part about it is? The poor guy now, like remember poor Bill Belichick years ago, that poor guy. Remember, I think that was South Park. It's like, yeah, you got to feel bad for that Bill Belichick guy. Remember that episode? And so you got to feel bad for that Tom Brady guy. He's going to go to Fox and, he's only going to make $375 million over the next 10 years as an analyst, So he's going to sit there and watch games for the next 10 years, making $40 million a year, and no one's going to touch him. So life's rough for that guy,
And, right. And you realize, listen, if the retirement is true, probably is, he's done, got to call him a GOAT, whatever, cannot deny it. But the thing is, if he's retired, for ESPN, all of them, they're going to probably pay him more than he made playing football just to have him on as an analyst.
He's curried GOAT now. He's curried GOAT, man. He's done. Look him.
But I say this. Let me ask you now. We had a bunch of good answers for our question. Now we can't spend a lot of time on it. Obviously, we're not going to go over 5-6 answers, but we did like a couple of answers from our fans. If you want to read them out, we could talk a lot about it. Both of them that you chose, I liked very much. I think we had a Lloyd V from New Jersey we were looking at. Lloyd.
Yeah. I actually really liked what this guy says. He goes, I'll read it to you. Want me to read it? I'll read it to you. What the heck?
Read the whole thing.
All right. He goes, just thinking about how to answer this question pains me.
Well, excuse me. I'm sorry. I want to make it my fault. Let's make it clear. Again, the question was, can you live with if Tom Brady was a Jets quarterback next year? I'm sorry, that's my bad.
No, you're right. No, it's good.
He is saying not if you want him or not. If Tom Brady is a Jets quarterback, as a avid Jets fan, we're all avid and passionate. Could you live with it? Could you breathe? Could you survive? and Lloyd V from New Jersey gave us this answer. Start over. My bad.
No, the thing is, you got to get that clear because it is a leap of faith to, even before the guy retired, just the idea that this would possibly happen is ridiculous.
Well, the word was out there. It was you would hear his name. Nah, probably not on Tampa Bay, and you would hear the Jets. It's not. We knew it was going to happen, but
That's right.
let's throw the question out there. So let's
Right.
start.
So what this guy goes, he says, hey fellas, great job, blah blah blah. He goes, here's what I love this. He goes, just thinking about how to answer this question pains me. However, if number one, he doesn't wear number 12, 2, gets us to the promised land, and most important, 3, torments the real enemy, Bill Belichick, and his evil empire along the way, then I could live with it. So he's saying it's a conditional answer from a Queens boy and fan since the 1965 draft. The only number 12 was drafted. Then he goes, go Jets, Lloyd V. So yeah, the real enemy, Billy Belichick. I love it. So there you go. Lloyd V.
He beats us. We're from '67, right?
Yeah,
so he beats us.
Yeah,
and he's 65. So great. I love the answer. I just love it. Was you could see it was from the heart how he felt. But yeah, you can handle Voldemort.
Yeah, my God.
You can handle him if he takes on someone more evil than himself.
Well, that's another thing. He said the thing I like best about his email is the end, the only number 12, right? And that's it. There's a million, guys that have worn it before and after, but he's the guy that made it real. He's the man. He's the guy that made it the real deal. Tom Brady, yes, he's a number 12. Tom Brady is the same guy that thinks he could say Tom Terrific. No, there's only one Tom Terrific, right? And there's only one number 12. So, but he is the GOAT. You're right. We give him credit, but I really enjoyed seeing that from Lloyd. Good job there, man. So,
well, great job, Lloyd V from New Jersey. Thank you so much. We have the last one, which I thought was funny, kind of short to the point. Had to be a younger guy, Steve G. I think it is out in Arizona. Steve G.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly. We don't want to feel like we're these malchauvinists. We're not. Not at all. But I thought the email was kind of funny. If you could handle Tom Brady being on the Jets, and I'm going to leave it to you to.
Thanks. Well, look, he's clearly got a one-track mind, and that's good. I have no problem with that.
Young guy.
And what this guy's interested in is really nothing at all to do with sports, which is really smart because guess what? When you're talking about, the whole Brady thing, whatever, we knew it wasn't going to happen anyway. So he didn't want to talk about analyzing the game. The guy really said it was really important to him. And here's what he says. The only way that I can tolerate Tom Brady, Jets quarterback, depends on the level of hotness that his next girlfriend will bring to the games. Okay. And then he goes, well, Kate Upton can't be the only supermodel in New York now that her husband, Justin Verlander, is pitching for the Mets. So he's got a one-track mind. It's pretty funny. And didn't happen, so we don't have to even think or worry about that. It's still just going to be Kate Upton for you, Stevie G. So you're good to go. But I thought that
I got a kick out of the silliness of it. I mean, there was some better emails than that, but no, it was good. It was just a young guy, Listen, it's so much of sports, and I think it's great, in terms of ESPN and SNY and the $1 Million Sports shows. The ladies are so involved. It's awesome to hear and see, and very knowledgeable and everything. So
so he just broke it down to what really matters to him. So
he just broke it down to the most shallow. But
that's all right.
Obviously, tongue in cheek. I know he was. He was having fun with it. But listen, Tom Brady, good-looking guy. got the money, got the success, got divorced, and he'll be doing fine, whatever the next love of his life is. It'll be all good. I'm sure it'll be all good. But
Let's not,
never
let's
want to
not,
hear anybody
we won't
getting
give him too
separated.
many,
He'll be
have a very long life. Wait a minute there, right? Yeah, we'll see one day. No, look, it's over with. It's in the past. You know, he can't hurt you anymore. He hasn't been in that division for 3 years anyway, so it's all good. Goodbye. Now you
no.
got to listen to him for 10 years, and oh boy. But whatever. You can always, switch channels. I don't know, depending. Lower his voice when the game's on. So, but that's
Well,
all.
listen,
Enough
it
with him.
happened.
He's
We had
done.
it, we had the 20 years, but more importantly, I was really kind of interested and excited. I know I get excited. You're a little bit more calmer. I get a little bit more like again, I brought up last week, our last podcast, when we heard about Tyreek Hill. The second I heard his name, personally, not thrilled about him as a person, but me being shallow, I guess I just thought of him as a football player, and just for that short time, thinking he could have been on the Jets.
Yeah.
So now maybe lose my mind. Now we're talking about, let's bring up the other 12, Aaron Rodgers, and Pat McAfee. He's talking about Hackett, and he's just throwing out the love bombs to Hackett and his family. And I always like that, because when you see about these really good quarterbacks, the ones that have been great for a long time, when we heard about Tom Brady, I'm bringing up his name, that in the locker room, obviously he knows all his plays, but he knew about them, their lives, their families, their wives, their children, their girlfriends, their significant others, whatever the situation is. He knew all about it. And when you see Aaron Rodgers talking about Hackett, Nathaniel Hackett, he mentioned his family.
Yeah.
He mentioned, and and how he made it great. The practices he made great and exciting. The meeting rooms. So this guy's throwing out a ton of love at Hackett, who is our offensive coordinator. Should I get excited, Phil? Should I start being ridiculous? Well, no, what am I not ridiculous? Should I be, losing my mind and gonna let my heart palpitate or whatever, Or what are we looking at here? And you made a great point, by the way. You throw it out. You found out before me, and you were reading about it with Namath, but
Well, Vin,
you were telling me
very thinly veiled possibility that it's either a smokescreen and baloney or it's going to happen. Could be either way. And, they could end up with Carr. Done. You never know. Like we talked about last time, But it looks really as if it's going to be the case with him. And the closer you get to the draft, if they don't pull the trigger, it'll be they'll need to do something from that side of it. But the key for me is, like we talked about last time, if Joe Namath, right, and this is what we read, this is what we saw, he goes on and he says, look, I'm willing to give him my number 12 to unretire it, for him to come here. I want Aaron Rodgers to wear my number 12. If that guy is willing to say I'll unretire it for him, then who are we to say, he's not that good? There he is, right? Let him do it. Let him make good old Joe happy. He's an old man, he's older than us, right? He's in his 80s now. You know what? Come on, Aaron, give him the number 12. Let him wear it. And if you're a real good guy, you'll say, no way, I'm not wearing it. But we'll see what happens. But, the Hackett love thing and all of that, it really does seem that this is going to happen. And something has to happen. And I think when we see what's gone on around the league with some of the other quarterbacks, and you were just going to bring this up as well, it gets a little bit like who's going to be competing for him now all of a sudden. And that's something, too, that we need to look at. And, Purdy, we want to talk about him a little bit. How does that throw a wrench in it for Rodgers? That's something now that you have to think about.
It throws a wrench in, but backtrack for 2 seconds. And what I really liked, again, last thing I want to say about Hackett, I know I drone on, but is that it wasn't only the love for the guy, his family, loving him as a person, just happy to be around him. But when he said in the 2 years he was the MVP under this guy, saying that he made the practice is fun. He made the meeting rooms fun. And what does he say? What does Rodgers say? Listen, I have to think about, can I handle the practices? Am I enjoying them? I'm enjoying the meeting room. Am I enjoying being with the guys? And all he's saying is that this guy, Nathaniel Hackett made all those things great, all those things fun. So we'll see. But now get into Purdy. This is what it's like being a Jets fan. Purdy's elbow injury is far more serious than I thought. Are they going to count? They like Trey Lance, the 49ers. Now you're starting hearing the mumbles, the whispers, and you hear about Rodgers and the 49ers. Just the way things go. And of course, Tom Brady retiring changes that dynamic. And you said it, price tags are going to go up now. It just kind of changed everything. Not in a good way.
Well, yeah. And you look at Purdy, and he had a great little sampling right now. Great. So going into next year, to think that they were just going to say, you're the guy, that's it, was a lot to think anyway, because they did draft a guy pretty high too in Lance, right? So you're going to have, you would think, that competition. So it depends on badly he's injured, this guy. If it's going to be where he's going to miss time, or if he's going to be ready for camp, that makes a big determination. And I think they'll know that soon. So that'll affect if they back off on a guy like Rodgers, if they leave it alone, because then they'll have two guys, And what does it mean for Garoppolo? I can't believe they keep him too, So, he'd have to decide now if he wants to go Garoppolo, and that's always a shot again for us. It gets really boring, and this is that drama of it that, how do you determine it? It gets silly, but you know what? They're playing for big, big stakes, the Jets. They got to, can't say it enough times, get it right. They really do. And if having fun at practice and having a good time is a signal that, like I said last time, having Rodgers in there alone, that brings credibility. That brings, let's go, guys, move. That brings something big to the moment. Now, if you bring his guy along with him, now you just have everybody in sync on the offensive side of the ball, and you still have Salah doing what he's supposed to do. It really gives them a depth from leadership that they haven't had. And if it brings Rodgers over, it's going to make that so that all they have to do is fill in the tasks that are ahead. And you got to think there's some really good things ahead for them. So,
well, it changed. Listen,
writing's on the wall.
It changes the universe if a Rodgers comes to the Jets. I don't care how old he is. And these guys, he's another guy, I mentioned it last podcast. He hasn't been destroyed like some, how some quarterbacks just get obliterated half the time, every time they're going back in the pocket. So he seems to be in pretty good shape. So you might, I'm not thinking about 1 year if we have him. I'm thinking about maybe, get 3 years in. Well, maybe he's showing Mike White the ways of the world,
You think he'll stick around 42 years old like that? Or like Brady's 45, I get it. That's unbelievable. But
well, Favre's 39, so he's not even, he's,
right.
He's not there, but
do you see this guy at a high level for 3 or 4 more years? Maybe. I don't know.
Listen, he played a high level. Well, he played toward the end, but he had that thumb injury, and it was hurting him. And as the season went on, he got, better and better and everything. Yeah. But listen, the bottom line, it just brings the Jets in another place, another universe. It's just a whole different world that we'll be seeing. I mean, what are the odds? Who knows? And you made the point. And it's going to be a grind. Well, whoever they take, they're going to just torture us, right? You were saying that. We were talking about it. We always show you our lives. Even when we're not doing podcasts, we're talking about the Jets, just my buddy, myself. And it's going to be brutal. They're just going to torture us. But one thing that's positive, in that article when he was talking about Salah, was talking about, obviously they didn't hire Hackett expecting
right.
Rodgers. All the Denver fans thought when Hackett was the head coach, they were going to get Rodgers. They didn't get Rodgers. Obviously, that doesn't meaningless. I don't believe Hackett or JD would be stupid enough to get Hackett thinking they're getting Rodgers.
Right.
Okay. But, they got the guy. Maybe there's more of a possibility. Who knows? But if it does happen, man, we are just talking about something way just changes the whole franchise, changes the whole dynamic.
Well, like good old Steve's email there. Forgetting about Brady, now think about Rodgers in New York with Verlander and all that. It brings a star quality to both. We're going to talk about the Mets or those other guys that do that other show that we're going to see soon. No, but when
Heard
you
there's two very handsome guys
yes,
that are going to be doing Mets 55.
yeah,
You know,
very handsome dudes. But honestly, it's just it would bring a star power to it because he's very involved in social media. He's a little controversial. He's going to be in New York. That's like he's going to be. It's going to be a hotbed for his. Not forget about politics and all that, but just the idea that he tends to put his foot in his mouth, get into trouble a little bit with what he says, and he's got that arrogance, that way about him. It might lend itself well as long as he wins. That's it. Just win, and nobody's going to really.
listen, he's not. He says some things that yeah, whatever. But he's not what I'm saying, a bad person. You don't hear about him doing horrible things off the field that you
Right.
hear sometimes, which is not happy to hear. But I don't care if he puts his foot in his mouth. Just take your foot out of your mouth when you're on the field and throw the ball and get touchdowns. And the thing I wanted to say last, I keep coming back to the guy, but in that article, I'm not going to say his name again, but Salah did say, and it's very clear, the Jets are in for that really good veteran quarterback, not a Flacco type, not a guy who's like 5 years already past his prime or past his time. So what are we looking at? We're basically going to be looking at, what's that?
A productive and top-notch quarterback. That's what
It's going to be. So you're looking at Rodgers, Carr, and Garoppolo.
it.
Now, if I had a bet, I wish it was Rodgers. If I'm a betting man, I'm probably thinking Carr. And if we get Carr, it's not the same. But you know what? That guy's throwing up numbers that we haven't seen ever for the most part. Vinny Testaverde for a number of years was a great quarterback for us. Nothing's ever sustainable for us, though.
Yeah.
But Carr had his moment at the Raiders where you thought he was going to be the guy. He had a really good year, contract, this, that. So is it going to be him? I would, if I had a bet, it would be him. Garoppolo, I wouldn't be totally, I wouldn't be crying or really upset about it. But
we touched on this last time. Whoever they get, it's going to be a tremendous market improvement. But think about it. We're not even talking about Lamar Jackson, right? That was another name that was out there that was possible. So you really hope that in their room they're distilling it down to who they think is going to work. I heard or I read. I should have sourced it. I'm sorry, but that they're really investigating intently on Carr right now. Is that a smoke screen so that tomorrow they sign the other guy, Rodgers? You don't know. That's the way it works with these guys. And the teams that do that well get the bodies that they want, So I'm hopeful. I think that JD's got to get it right. We talked about that, but this will settle out soon because the combine's coming, right? And we still have to talk about our boy Klecko. We're going to do that real soon, but it's coming, within the draft, and the combine and the draft, and before you know it, it's done. So you've got to have that settled and solidified and ready to go right after all that stuff. So it's going to be the next 6 weeks. That's the way I look at it. 6 to 8 weeks, it'll be done.
Listen, for us, it's going to be torturous. Last thing on the topic, and we got to get to Klecko, is that I just trust JD. This is going to be a whole new dynamic for him. I think he's great. Only time, and he dropped the ball and was the most important thing, the most important position. But that quarterback pick at number 2 didn't work out. So what are you going to do? But he's done so many things that I like. Obviously, he gets criticized sometimes, the offensive line. But when you get so many injuries, so financially, the way he handles himself, I think he'll handle the cap, the money. He'll get it done. So let's see what happens. That's going to be exciting. But flipping the switch a little bit. I'm glad you brought up his name, Joe Klecko, right on the cusp of going to the Hall of Fame. And let me say this, and I'm not going to say anything anymore about him. What's made me furious about Joe Klecko not being in the Hall of Fame for so many years, and he better get in. I hope he gets in.
That'd be ridiculous.
Here you
Enough.
have the only player in NFL history, the only player in NFL history to go to the Pro Bowl for 3 different positions.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah,
defensive end, defensive tackle, and nose tackle. The guy was, and all you had to do was ask some of the great offensive linemen like a Munoz and guys like that who said he was the guy.
Yeah.
So, it's taken too long. It shouldn't have taken this long. Listen, I was mad. Obviously, I'm a Jets fan. When I was young years ago, I couldn't believe that Frank Tarkenton didn't get in the first time. I'm like, okay, he didn't win the Super Bowls, but the numbers, everything he did. So what are we talking about? And now we got Joe Klecko,
Well,
3 times in the Pro Bowl with 3 different positions.
and the Pro Bowl, for people that don't really remember, that back then that was a pretty hard hitting game in the 80s, the Pro Bowl. Now it's going to be flag football. It's not after the season anymore. Then it was in Hawaii after the Super Bowl. You even had guys that were in the Super Bowl showing up. It was a big deal. Got a nice vacation in Hawaii. This is back in the 80s. It was a hard-hitting game. It was a big deal. And this guy, and forgetting about that, just what he had to do to be the best each year, each time, in each position. It's like a guy in baseball playing first base like, Keith Hernandez, and third base like Mike Schmidt. You know what I mean? The guy, was the best.
Johnny Bench at catcher.
Right? Yeah, your center field. Yeah, it's ridiculous what this guy was able to do, and it just doesn't get noticed because he was quiet, he was humble, and we loved him. But we had Gastineau with the sack there. We had all that going on, and you had Salam, Marty Lyons, good guys, quiet guys. We could go through the whole team, Blanca, Buttle, and Mel, all that. But the one guy was him because, and there's a lot of torture. We talked about that with them. But that era, their defense was unreal. And they could get to the quarterback, no blitzing necessary, like Gastineau would do his, moves and get there. And, they just were unbelievable. And
you said it. Listen, it was the sack exchange. They were great for a number of years. They wreaked havoc. But you know what? You could probably take each of those guys, replace one, but not Klecko. You know what I mean? It was the sack. You said the sack exchange because of Klecko. Yeah. Because of what he did. I remember him coming back, and it was against the Bengals. It was against Munoz. He came back from a major injury, and he hadn't been playing for months. And here he is. He's on the field. It's raining. And he just tormented Munoz. It was just unbelievable. Just he was out there for almost every play, which obviously you don't see that today, which is fine. You don't want these guys to be crippled or whatever. Obviously, you don't want them to suffer badly with the pain and the aches and everything. That's terrible. But man, this guy came from a major injury. First came back. There was no we'll do this slowly. Oh my God, every play, and he was just tormenting that whole offensive line. It was just unbelievable to see.
Well, he was a selfish guy too, because if he was selfish, he would have had more sacks than he did. But he knew his role to free up, Gastineau, and that's really what it amounted to. So, who are you going to double team on that line? Who are you going to decide to plug up? But you had the standard, 4-man line that, Purple People Eaters, it was as good as it got. Those guys were as good. The Steelers, the Steel Curtain. I don't care. The sack exchange, as good as any of them. And I think we'll go into more detail in the next week or so about, Klecko and the sack exchange. But the takeaway is, to have this fighting to get the guy in, it's only because the team doesn't succeed. And that's the thing that's got to change. If you look at it, okay, I'm not going to get into the Giant thing so much, but Harry Carson is in the Hall of Fame. Good linebacker, guaranteed good guy. He helped Lawrence Taylor get to higher levels. But Lawrence Taylor, oh my God, that was the linebacker, So you have all these other guys that are in. It's like in baseball. How is Keith Hernandez not in the Hall of Fame when Scott Rowland gets in? Good guy, good for him. Mark Grace. How is that guy in and Keith Hernandez isn't? How is name anybody in and Joe Klecko from the D line of the Sack Exchange is not in? It's a joke. I'd be okay. Here's a question I have for you. Just hit me. Which do you think is more probable? Aaron Rodgers coming or Joe Klecko going?
I think from what I understand, Joe is on the cusp. I would say Klecko finally getting in, which he had to pass that the big hurdle that he never passed. He finally passed that, and it was that older players who hadn't been hadn't gotten a chance now, had some opportunities. So I would definitely give the answer of more of a chance of having Joe Klecko. But let's hope it happens, man. We'll be talking about it down the road a week or two. And it needs to be done. And not because, like I said, obviously we're on 56 years, even though we're called Jets 55.
Soon to be the 57th season,
We're not changing the number. It just takes too much time. But let's just hope it happens.
No matter how you slice it, the guy belongs in the Hall of Fame. So they can debate it till the cows come home. But we're going to go into, like I said, we're going to go into a little bit more in depth for the next show, for number 7, But, I'm thrilled that we did this quickly with the whole Brady thing. And,
This was great.
Yeah.
This was fun. He's gone. It's all about who the Jets going to pick up at quarterback. But for the younger folks down there who might even be like listening and say, so they could be saying who they're talking about. We'll again, like Phil saying, we'll go more in depth and show you exactly who we're talking about.
That's it. You got it. So, but anyway, it's been fun and
great time.
We'll talk again. All right. Have a good one.